So, our first question is how long have you been working on Spacelab and like when did it first come to fruition?
So the idea came about probably around 2001. We started working on it in 2015, and we had our grand opening June of 2017.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit what inspired you to start Spacelab?
Sure. So it was out of a personal need. I was freelancing as an architectural designer, and I didn't want to have my clients come to my home. I didn't want to, I was tired of meeting at the library and at Starbucks, and I wanted a professional looking space like the larger architecture firms and larger design firms. Um, and I wanted a place where my colleagues and I could get together and meet and work on projects together and collaborate. Um, so um, I thought it would be great if we could have a space where we could share expenses and, you know, have offices in the same location, and customers could come to one central location where they could get kind of a one-stop shop where they could have architecture, engineering, construction, all in the same place. We've expanded beyond that, so it's not just a built environment focused space anymore, but that is a lot of our focus here at Space Lab.
Gonna say you said it was more of a personal problem that it started off with.
Yes,
Can you tell us how like it expanded that you realize this is a community problem that others are facing?
sure. So I was sharing an office with an architect for a while, and he and I talked about having other people share the space with us. Um, I talked with colleagues and other people that I was working with, and then we before we opened, we sent out a survey to people in our people that I had been networking with, people that I had worked with previously, and just asked them if they'd be interested in a workspace like this and what they wanted to see in the space.
Okay. That all sounds really great. Another question we had was what your role in Spacelab is, um, and maybe like how that sort of changed since you started it.
I don't think it's really changed much. I am co-founder and CEO. Bobby is co-founder and COO. But I am here every day, pretty much every day, interacting with our members, we call them members, who are in the space, who have office space and desk space here, interacting with our customers who have virtual offices. Sorry, my light is on a sensor, it's about to go out. um, and doing marketing, doing customer interaction, doing just about everything.
The customer surveys you done, can you talk
hmm
about like how critical that was for the success of the company?
We asked them where they wanted to be located, and the top answers, as I kind of figured, was downtown or midtown Detroit or Ann Arbor. I knew I didn't want to drive to Ann Arbor every day. That would be a little haul, and it's not that far, but downtown is closer. And I knew that our customers wanted to be close to the government offices in the city and the county so that they could talk to the building department, things like that. But it was critical, in finding out, we gave them price ranges, and finding out how much they would be willing to pay for the space, what type of amenities they wanted included. So it was pretty important for us to gather that information. And not only for us to have that information, but that was also kind of a marketing tool for them to know, what was coming, what they could anticipate if they got a space here.
You had these like problems and you had these desires. How did it become a viable business?
Once we got the surveys back, and people definitely said this is a space that they wanted. I knew, and we confirmed with the survey that, people wanted to have like a Class A office space in downtown Detroit, but they couldn't really afford it. If you want to set up your own office here, purchase furniture, have a cleaning service, have a long-term being 3 to 5 year lease with a landlord, and everything that you need to do to set up an office, pay utilities, pay internet, all of that. We made it easy for them by having this turnkey office where all you need to do is bring your laptop or your desktop and start working, because we provide furniture. We've done all of the upfront work for them, and that was attractive to people who were single entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, or had small businesses, but probably could not afford to have a larger office in downtown Detroit. When I mentioned that I shared an office with an architect, that office was probably no more than 800 square feet. There were 2 offices and a small conference room. No, it may have been probably about 800, 900 square feet, if that big. Here, they have their private office, and then they can come out and work in an open area, or they can go to a conference room. And they also get a receptionist who can greet their guests when they come in. So yeah, that was attractive to people.
Yeah, that sounds great. So the other question I have, I guess, related to that is,
Hmm.
how did you decide to do Spacelab specifically?
Hmm.
And did you consider any other types of solutions to the like problems that you were seeing in the community?
How did we decide to do Spacelab specifically? Early on, before we decided how we were going to fund a build out of a space, we started having meetup groups to talk about technology and innovation in the built environment space. And that was another way that we started to kind of prove the concept, I guess, that people did want to get together and talk about these things and maybe collaborate on innovation. But repeat the question again. How did we
So
decide to? Yeah,
yeah, I said, why did you like decide on Spacelab specifically, like doing like a co-working space, or
yeah,
like the way you specifically decided to do that versus like thinking of
an
another type of
alternative.
solution? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really thought of another solution. I put some kind of feelers out on LinkedIn to see if there was anything else like it, maybe around the country. And
Mhm.
there was a design firm. Somebody came back and said that their design firm that they owned had extra space, and they were renting out space to kind of companies that were complementary. So if it was a design firm, maybe they had a printing company that rented out
Mhm.
space from them, or a website design company, or something that would complement what they were doing. But it wasn't really a co-working space. They were just renting out offices or space to them.
Mhm.
I guess you could look at that as a co-working space, but yeah, I don't think we really thought about anything different than a co-working space. Back in the early 2000s, when we were thinking about it, co-working was not the name for it. I don't know if there was a name back then, but once we went and looked at WeWork and some other co-working spaces before we opened, and decided that that's the way we wanted to go. That it was doable.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you had like that specific like idea in mind.
Mhm.
So,
I was just gonna go off of like you talked about how they didn't really call it co-working spaces back then.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
mentioned in class there was kind of a lack of like research and information on these
Yeah.
co-working spaces, like and how to like manage them. How
Mhm.
was this like a challenge for your business, and how did you overcome that lack of information out there?
So I was thinking, once we get this space built out and we get members in the space, people renting out the offices. I was still freelancing at the time. I was freelancing, doing marketing for architecture and engineering firms. I thought I was just going to be able to have my desk in the open area, do my freelance work, and the co-working was just going to take care of itself, right? That didn't happen. Because we found that there's a lot more work that goes into it, customer acquisition, understanding who the customers are, making sure their butts in seats, turnover, churn, things like that. And if the offices are not occupied, you really got to get out there and convince people this is a space for them. When there are bigger names in the field, like WeWork coming into our space and coming into our city and having a co-working space with multiple floors, and they have more of a national presence than we do. The co-working took over.
How do you think you guys differentiate yourself from those competitors like WeWork?
In addition to the built environment focus, we are very community focused. Members would tell us it feels like family here. They feel comfortable. They know the owners, and they feel comfortable coming to us with business problems that they're having. And we sit down and talk with them about it, kind of help them talk through it. We love to celebrate with them. I think I mentioned that before, our celebrate the wins. Celebrate with them when they have some type of milestone or something great that happens in their business. So yeah, just more of a community feel.
So kind of bouncing off of that, you talked about how important it is for them to see you guys in the office, know the owners. How will you guys navigate that when you have two locations?
When we have two locations, yeah. So we do have, yeah, that's going to be difficult. But it's important for us to scale and grow. Co-community manager that we have here in Detroit has a great rapport with our members here. So she, even though she's not an owner, they feel that they can come and talk to her too, and they have that relationship with her as well.
Okay, so going back to your business model, what are the main products or services that Spacelab provides to its customers?
Okay, and Bobby just came on. So
Oh, does
and
he?
he has my picture and my name up there when he's on. The main products and services that we offer. So we offer private offices, and they range in size from one-person offices up to offices for 8 people. We offer desk space, which could be a dedicated desk where the person comes into the same desk every day and nobody else can sit there. Flex desks, where you come in and just grab a seat and work. We offer meeting room time, which people can reserve it ahead of time, or if there's something available, they can just come in on demand and get meeting room time. Day passes, so people can come in and work for the day. And then our virtual offices, which we have directly through Spacelab or with third-party vendors. So virtual office gives them a suite address at the minimum, and we handle their mail and their packages. And then virtual offices can also have other additional services like phone, meeting room time, other things, just depending on which one they choose.
So which are your primary customer segments for your business? I know you talked a lot about people who are in architecture and engineering and stuff like that.
Creators, so designers, builders, and the designers could be an architect, an engineer, or a graphic designer, or an artist. And I was going back. I'm sorry. I was going back to your other question. Well,
You're okay.
I forgot one of the primary services that we do is with the city of Detroit for the City Walls program. Then talking about artists made me think of that. So what was the last question? You asked me the
about customer segments. Yeah.
Customer segments. Okay. And then startups and small businesses.
Okay.
In general.
So then do you, when you're like, when people are joining Spacelab, do you ever limit customers based on the field that they're in, or is it kind of like whoever is gravitated towards Spacelab is given the opportunity to work there?
I don't think we've ever, Bobby, can you think of a time when we've ever told someone they were not a good fit? I don't think we've ever told anybody no, they're not a good fit for Spacelab, because even though the built environment professionals are a focus with us, they need other services as well. So they need graphic designers, they need IT people, they need accountants and attorneys. So when we look at, and I have a survey right here that we're going to be putting out, because a lot of times we don't know with our virtual office customers what business they are. We can't tell by their name. We do have, we're located very close to some of the courthouses downtown. So we do have quite a few attorneys now. And we have we have some financial services businesses, but we have a broad spectrum of entrepreneurs and small businesses in the space.
Touched on like the City Walls program and being a verified Detroit vendor. How has it shaped like your target customer segments and like helping them their needs?
So built environment does include artists and people that create murals and public art. So that was a segment that I wanted to target, but we just had not really reached out to them or done a good job at targeting them, and working with the City Walls program has helped in that way. And working with those artists has helped us to understand, some of the entrepreneurial challenges that artists have, and that can open up another service that we can provide for them. Having classes on artists and entrepreneurship and artist businesses and things like that.
Or like looking to start co-working in your space, could you take me to the steps of how you would engage with me, educate on your services, and what are the needed like initial steps to be onboarded?
So we start with a tour. If they call and we ask them if they want to come in for a tour. If they're a virtual office customer, we invite them to take a tour around the space when they come in, pick up their mail. And we go through all of the product offerings that we have, whether they want to get a private office or a desk space, or if they just want to rent out meeting room space, or have it come in for a day pass on the day, maybe they don't want to work at home someday, or they want to get away from home one day. So we give them those options. And then we follow up with an email with them asking, if they would like to come in, for the day and work. Sometimes we give them a day pass. We have in the past offered discounted meeting room time to them. And then they are typically added to our newsletter list so they can see the things happening at Spacelab, the events that we have. We promote our members in our newsletter by welcoming new members and talking about the good news, if they're working on a specific project or if they've gotten any press or anything like that, we share that with them. The prospective customers are added to our email list. We do not have like a formal marketing automated email system yet. We were talking about ChatGPT, and last night I was talking to ChatGPT and got a whole system of automated emails for potential customers. So we're going to start that soon. Yeah, because we want to be consistent in our messaging, and because our staff until recently has been more limited, we have not been as consistent as I would like. So we're going to get that moving.
And if I could step in for a second, I
Yeah.
mean, if the call I just took was from a new mail customer that had a lot of questions, so that doesn't understand how the thing works. So I think another area that we're going to want to address pretty soon, really soon, is having like an opening or a welcoming packet for the mail customers. Because this was a lady that called last night. She came to our office expecting to be able to get in, and that's not how it works.
On a Sunday night?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
She thought she had a key code that she could just come in anytime.
Okay. Okay. So we do have a list of frequently asked questions on our website for people, especially our mail customers, because we have so many of them. So a lot of times we direct them to that. But we want to have, like Bobby said, a welcome email for them so they know where to go find that information right away.
So then when you're looking at these new customers, are they usually individuals or like groups of people, like maybe like a smaller company or something like that?
With the virtual office customers, it's usually individuals.
Mm-hmm.
If they are members who come to work here daily or weekly or whatever package they purchase from us, it could be individuals, it could be groups of people.
I guess along those lines, I know this week when you were in class, you talked about leveling the playing field. And so I wanted to ask like what like is a main value that you provide to these customers? Like maybe like leveling the playing field being an example of
Sure.
one of those.
Sure. So there are several, and I'll use architecture firms as an example, several large architecture firms in downtown Detroit with prestigious addresses. So the architecture firms who are housed here, and we have 9 or 10 of those, when they promote their business on their website or their business card, people can see, or if people Google them, they can see they have an address in downtown Detroit, just like those larger architecture firms. So, they're not they're not putting their home address on their information. People can see that they have an office, and that goes even for virtual offices as well. They have a business address that they can give to their customers to legitimize their business. With the customers who utilize a physical space, their customers come in, they get greeted by a receptionist, they have a great conference room, they can offer them coffee, beverages, snacks sometimes. So yeah, they get the same feel for the most part as those larger companies.
We when we went on our Detroit tour, we went to Tech Town, and they were showing us the cost structure of how they do like their spaces, and they had like a monthly pass, but you can only have like 10 days in the office. And then like unlimited monthly pass. Like, can you explain how you guys figured out how to set up your cost structure and what services you offer on like those different tiers?
So we looked at places like Tech Town and other places. So we looked at places across the country, and that were similar to what we wanted to do. And then we looked at our local competition, and we wanted to price ourselves. We wanted to be less expensive than a WeWork, but more expensive than, and give more value than, at the time, Bamboo.
And I think, places like Green Garage.
Yeah. So we looked at our competition and looked at the amenities that they offered for the price, and we wanted to be competitive with that.
What are your main sources of revenue right now?
Well, I can answer that one. Our number one source of revenue is obviously the co-working, primarily the offices. The desk revenue has always been a little disappointing. And then our virtual mail has really stepped up. It's actually a number 2. And then I would say the city walls is a distant third. So those are our 3 main revenue streams.
Has people utilize like private offices versus the public open like spaces?
We are currently, I think we have 1 office left out of the 11 that we have. So obviously that usage has been high since day one. The desks, as I said, they've been disappointing, and I think that's not just us. That's been across the board. Even when we work with some of the other competitors, their desks were not as full as you would have expected. So I think one of the things we found is that in Detroit, people really like their private offices.
Yeah. Well, when co-working was first started, when it had a formal name, maybe about 2012, until about 2017, 2018, the open desk concept was very popular, and people could, even at Tech Town, you're walking around, you see somebody, or see somebody you may want to work with. And, there's that interaction where you can network with people. But people found that sometimes it's harder to get work done in that type of atmosphere. So they wanted a place where they could go and close the door. So, soon after we opened, we realized, people may want a closed door office. Right now we have 11 offices. 10 of those are occupied. During COVID, we kind of switched over when we had more vacant space and called a couple of those offices content creation spaces, where people could do DIY podcasts and videos and things like that. We still kind of have one of those offices set up for that, but we're not marketing it as much as we could or as we should. We do have somebody who's interested in that, so that may go away. We still have the equipment, so we could figure out how to put that somewhere else. But people are using their offices as their private workspace. Our members who have office space pretty much stay in their office all day long. They'll come out, every once in a while. They may meet up with somebody who's at the open desk space, or they may meet up with each other as they pass each other in the hallway. But our private office members pretty much stay in their offices.
So you're talking about like there's a very professional atmosphere going on, and it's going to shape the way you provide services. Can you explain like how has that changed your thinking now that people want private offices more than the public?
It could increase our revenue, all right? Because we don't have the vacant desk space, the open desk space. If we added a couple more offices, we might eliminate 6 desks, but that gives us more consistent revenue throughout the month. Yeah, Bobby, you wanna?
Well, I would say that would be true if I was starting from scratch again. I definitely think we would have added more offices and the dedicated desks give you more revenue. I think what we learned is that the floating desks aren't nearly as popular as we thought they would be.
Yeah.
So, and the fixed desks and the offices definitely bring you more revenue. So.
Yeah, and we've noticed in co-working spaces that we visited more recently, they don't really have that open workspace. They have casual open seating, but not really the open desk. And if they do have floating desk space, they're inside of an office that can be rented and changed over pretty quickly.
Or another thing I've noticed too is that they tend to if they do have desks, the walls are getting higher. So, and I'm sure that's for noise abatement.
What do you do in order to reach out to new customers and gain new customers and just grow your overall customer base?
So we started to do more social media advertising. One of our members, we bartered some time with them. They're not what you call a public relations firm anyway. They do advertising. So trying to leverage that. Like I said, we're going to definitely use the chat engine a lot more. And, just like I say, just a lot of word of mouth, a lot of just community news. And also we do get some advertising from the third party mail vendors. So they help in particularly outside of Detroit.
So Bobby, did you mention Google profile, business profile?
I said social media, but
yeah.
that's what I would include that.
Yeah. I would say Google business profile and has been the most successful for us. We don't have a lot of testimonials on Google, but the testimonials that we do have are all like 4.9 or higher, or mostly 5.0. So that really helps us a lot and makes us rise higher in the search engines, as is how did you hear about us, or if they call us for a meeting. And 99% of the time is through Google. We do list our space on several third-party listing services like Liquid Space and things like that. But we'll get a hit from those every once in a while, but not a whole lot, and certainly not as much as we hear that people found us on Google.
How does your marketing strategies differ from the virtual mailing services versus the co-working spaces?
Yeah, because the virtual, we share revenue with the third party virtual office providers. So we're essentially paying them to market for us. They do the marketing to bring in those mail customers. So yes, but for day passes, desk space, office space, we promote that ourselves. And a lot of that again is also through our newsletter or email marketing.
Well, also too, the third party vendors, because again, the call I just had to take during our interview, the young lady wants to book meeting rooms and things of that nature. So they refer them to us for those types of services that they don't provide. So that also helps with marketing, because again, that sends us additional customers for day passes and meeting room rentals.
The thing that we wanted to ask you is, how are you working to keep your current customers happy? And of the customers that you have now, are many of them repeat customers, or is it more like new customers? Like, what does that look like?
So they're definitely, we have customers who have been here with us since we opened in 2017. And, there was a time when our lease was getting close to ending, and I asked a couple of them, and, if we move, would you be willing to move? And they said they would go with us wherever we moved to. So they seem to be pretty happy. So quite a few of them have been with us for quite a long time. I would say, yeah, the majority of the Spacelab direct customers, even some of our Spacelab mail and virtual office customers, have been with us for over 3 years.
I was also wondering how you work to maintain
okay.
customers.
Yeah, so beverages and snacks. Our co-community manager now is really working with us to increase our events that we have. So before COVID, we were having events pretty regularly. We slowed down, of course, during COVID. We couldn't have any, but we didn't ramp up as quickly as I would like, just probably because I was kind of burnt out, after COVID. But she has put together a calendar of events for the remainder of the year, with at least 3 each month. So that's something that we're going to do to work to draw new customers and to keep and maintain our current customers. We also, we are now a Google partner. So we can promote that we have a partnership with Google, and they can provide a Google digital coach to work with us to do workshops and things like that, or they give us the content where we can do it on our own. We've been working with a digital coach. So that's part of the workshops and things that we'll be offering. But she's some of those are virtual, a couple will be in person, but Mary, who's our co-community manager, is working on a lot more in-person events.
Right, but I'd like to amplify though too about customer retention. I think one of the things that we do very well is we're very attentive to our customers. So if they have needs or they have questions, we're very responsive. I know, to give you an example, we had a few weeks ago, we had an outage. There was an issue with AT&T that knocked out our internet. And so once we were aware of it, we communicated with everybody and we kept them informed about the outage until it was resolved. And as soon when it was resolved, we let everyone know. So that's just an example of some of the customer service things that we do. And I think that has, I know that has really helped with customer retention. And so that's probably one of the main reasons why we've had our customers so long. And even then, we talk about different ideas. We consult with them. So we really, this is part of the community thing and part of just, it's easier to keep a customer than to get a new one.
So as a part of customer retention, I know you've talked about doing surveys. Like, do you often try to get customer feedback? And also, is it mostly to current customers, or do you ever also survey past customers?
We have not surveyed past customers, but that's something that we should do. And I did mention that we keep a list of all of our past customers, whether they were in-house or virtual office customers. We do have a list of those. So we do need to reach out to them. Our surveys typically go out to current customers. And one thing that I have a survey right here that we're working on. Just a quick 3-question survey. What is your business? Because we really want to be able to target events and activities to specific markets, not just the building and design market. What is your business and what is your biggest need? We want to understand what their needs are.
So for your business, what are your main costs in running Spacelab?
Far and away, the biggest cost is rent. That is probably 60% of our cost structure is the rent we have to pay for our downtown location. Definitely the second biggest cost is labor, our salaries. The other costs are fairly small.
Our startup costs, we built out this space. So it used to be an attorney's office and there were lots of walls that had to be demoed, and our landlord demoed the space, but whatever was built in the space, we did that. And that was a big cost for us. And furniture was also a large expense. Fortunately, with the space in Florida that we're looking to get, that space is already built out for us. It is almost perfect. We need to paint with our brand colors, but it even includes furniture. So
you're looking to rent in Florida as well?
Yeah, we're looking to rent a space down there.
That is the real risk of this business. And that's really what got WeWork, was they had long-term leases on very expensive properties.
Like 25-year leases.
Yeah, I mean, we would never do anything like that, but they committed themselves so heavily in leases that it really didn't allow them an opportunity to make money. And most of our customers are year to year or even month to month. So it puts a great risk on the owner.
So with the Florida office, you mentioned in class you had to travel back and forth, start building relations and building networking. How has that gone so far? And do you have any advice for other people doing the same?
Then you have to kind of follow the same path. I mean, you have to establish relationships with people. And so if you're going to go into a new market, you need to have, until you get a name like WeWork. WeWork, everybody knows WeWork, so they don't really have to send a lot of advanced scouts. But when you're a smaller company, you have to get out and you need to meet people and hopefully they're influential people that can help introduce you around. I mean, I would say all of our trips have had benefit to us in terms of going into that market.
Yeah. And fortunately, we are members of national organizations. So, that can transfer or translate. I can go to Florida and say, hey, I'm a member of National Organization of Minority Architects. We've already talked with someone who is from there. They moved to Michigan briefly. They're going back, and they've already told us, we know, I know people who are in Orlando, but they want to move to the Tampa Bay area, and they are really interested in having a workspace there. So we can use those relationships. Other, construction professional organizations that we belong to, they've also expressed interest in having with their members having a connection with us. So, having those memberships in national organizations is very helpful.
For your Detroit office, so you talked about like your costs, and you were talking about your Florida office, but for your Detroit office specifically, how much revenue are you able to capture across 1 year?
So last year, our co-working revenue was just under 200,000. Our mail revenue was 72,000, and the revenue for City Walls was about 35,000.
And so what activities do you engage in order to make your business like viable, like on a day-to-day basis? Like upkeep and stuff like that.
I mean, our number one activity is, servicing the co-working customers, because they're there every day. They're fairly low maintenance. The mail is more work in that, processing the mail and getting it in its correct spots, and then either scanning or whatever you have to do to get it to the end customer. It's definitely more labor intensive.
And keeping up with 500 mail customers, there's a lot of churn, so making sure we know whose box is closed, what new customers coming in, contacting the vendors that we work with. That takes up quite a bit of time, a lot more time than I kind of thought it would. But, as far as the customers who are here in the space, putting together marketing campaigns and things like that, that's how we communicate with them, talking with them, on a regular basis, just so they see us. And you mentioned, when we open other spaces, they may not see the owners, but if they see our staff who is here consistently, and they see we don't have a lot of turnover in our employees and our staff, they get to know them as well. So yeah, just that communication with them on a daily basis.
You mentioned like that you have some different vendors. Who are the key like partners and suppliers that you work with, and like what do they provide?
AT&T is obviously very important to us. I have a meeting with them after we're finished. They provide our internet services and our phones. Obviously, our landlord is vitally important, even though I'll leave that alone. Our other vendors for different services. I mean, we have our printer vendor is important, but we hardly ever talk to each other. I got to deal with him now to get a printer in Florida.
Oh, the mail service vendors, iPostal One, Post Scan Mail, Opus Virtual Office. And then there's the marketing vendors who, they're all online. So MailChimp, if you want to call them, I guess they are vendors. We use their services. MailChimp. We were using Meetup before but now I'm not really seeing any benefit from Meetup too much. Trying to see if a Facebook group might be better. Just need to be able to capture emails from Meetup, and with the entry level or the the lowest tier, you can't do that. So we need to work on that. Um, you know, Canva, all of those marketing tools that we have online.
Did you mention Nexus? I'm sorry, I was.
Okay, Nexus is the customer relation and co-working software that we use to keep track of our members, do invoicing, things like that.
What are alternatives to Spacelab that a customer might use, like alternatives and also just like other competitors that you face?
Alternative would be a coffee shop, which, when I went in Starbucks this morning, there are people that in there on their computers, working. The library, although I don't think people use libraries as maybe you all do on a college campus, but not really as much as they used to.
I think libraries have really reduced their hours, which makes it harder for people to use them.
Sharing an office, like I mentioned that I did with another architect, just going in and sharing an office with somebody without it being a co-working space. I've got, they could say, especially now after 2021, I've got some vacant office space here, come and share this space with me, if you need a place to work. And then our since we opened in 2017, I mean, when we were planning our co-working space in 2016, there weren't many co-working spaces in Detroit, maybe 2 or 3 that were visible, that people gravitated to. By 2018, 2019, there were a lot more. So we have a lot more competition in the co-working space. We just have to work a lot harder to differentiate ourselves. One of the biggest obstacles I would say that we have here is parking. Because we're located in a downtown area, people have to park at a meter or park in a lot and pay for parking. There's not a lot of free parking around here. That is one of the biggest obstacles that we've had.
So is parking you were talking about parking. So what are other problems that Spacelab faces now? I know you also kind of mentioned coming back from COVID as another thing.
Other than parking, what are our biggest obstacles? I mean, people are used to working from home. And although, one of our customers with the most office space, they have 2 offices and one of our largest offices, they're all still working from home. I mean, we see one person consistently and they come to get the mail. So pretty much their office space is being used as storage space. So a lot of people are just used to working from home. And we have to convince them, hey, getting out to a workspace is a good way to, break up your day, to get new ideas, things like that. I think that's the biggest obstacle. And a bigger obstacle too for us is getting those corporate customers whose workers are working from home consistently, and showing them that this could be a place where they can gather and have team meetings and retreats and things like that.
Well, also, I think it's a way you talked about. It's a way that they can lower their capital costs by letting go of some of their space and locating, having a desk or an office in a co-working space that would be lower cost for them and offer an opportunity for people who do want to get out of the house. So I think that's going to be a big push we need to have down in Florida, is approach companies. Well, like the people we're subleasing from, they had a large space and they decided to get out of it because their people
You talked about in Florida, you want to start with the virtual mailing services. What plans do you guys have for that?
Just leveraging what we've already learned from those people is to get through the obstacles, get that set up, and then allow them to market for us, as well as we have lists of key people in Florida that we want to start using Chat GBT, or I hope I said it right, to reach out to them to say that we're there and to offer our services that way. So the combination of using the third-party vendors and using our contacts down there to really start pushing that business while we're finishing up getting the office space ready.
So we knew we wanted to be in the Tampa Bay area. There's a lot of construction going on in that area. That's a growing area, and you may have heard on the news, a lot of people are moving there from New York or California, or wherever. But we chose St. Petersburg because, number one, there weren't as many co-working spaces as there are in Tampa. And our primary third-party vendor that we use for mail, iPostal One, where we get the most customers, they didn't have a location there. I don't think they have a location there right now. If they do, it's certainly not as many as in Tampa. And they have told us that we are one of their best virtual office locations throughout the country. So we know that, when we go down there, and Bobby has already talked with them about that we're opening an office there, that they are going to send quite a few customers our way.
Right. And even as we speak, I mean, one of the reasons why I'm here is I'm working on a competitive analysis looking at the number of co-working spaces in St. Petersburg, and it's a surprisingly low number. So we want to strike now while the iron's hot before it gets more saturated.
And you talked about like St. Petersburg has a art scene, so there's a lot of creators you could tap into.
Right, right,
Yep.
yeah, even more so than Tampa Bay. Tampa. St. Petersburg has a lot more art related industries.
Yeah, Tampa is more in banking and IT than St. Petersburg.
One of our last questions, what would you do to improve Spacelab?
Definitely ramp up our marketing efforts. We have in the past done Google ads, things like that, and a couple Facebook ads. I am not the best digital marketer right now. So I approached the Facebook ads in the wrong way, just trying to boost posts, but definitely do more Google and Facebook ads, targeting markets. So, during the downturn, we didn't have as much or any funds for marketing in that way. That's why we stopped it. But now it's time to ramp it up again.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this discussion? Because other than that, I think we're done with questions.
Okay. I guess one other thing is, looking at additional income streams. What else can we do to provide more income, more revenue and profit in the space? So can we add, entrepreneurship classes that people would pay for? What other things coaching, things like that? What other, we're looking at other revenue streams.
Awesome.
And just proper pricing. I mean, we haven't increased our prices in 3 years. So I think it's time, but
yeah,
how much of a
With
price
inflation.
increase? Yeah. So how much price increase can we really put on our customers before we start losing them?
Yeah.
Awesome. I had one last question. Like, as we're working with you through the semester, can you give us like your top values that we should take with us as we go through the semester?
Community.
Well, like I mentioned to you guys the other night, I think one of the things we learned, particularly through COVID, is don't get so married to your business model.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to flex. I mean, a lot of the businesses that didn't survive COVID was because they were too married to their business model. So you got when opportunities present themselves, even if it's not part of your core business or what you think your core business is, you got to survive. And so, like I say, when we started, we'd have never thought of virtual mail. We would have never thought of some of the things that have come along and are good revenue streams. So just to be flexible and always keep your ears to the ground, and be willing to try some things.
I guess as far as values, is innovation a value? We want to be
I think
innovative.
so.
Yeah. Innovation, in our business, and to help our customers to be innovative as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for meeting with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, let us know if you need anything else.
Yeah.
Of
We look
course.
forward
All
to
right.
being able to work with you.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.